Okay, so you've sent us down a fascinating, maybe slightly dark rabbit hole this time.
Oh.
We're looking at the first episode of a podcast, Echoes of the Crime, Behind the Mic.
Right. With Maya Sinclair and Liam Carter.
Exactly. And they're digging into the really baffling disappearance of Sarah Finch. So our plan today is basically to unpack their analysis,
Yeah, see what we can pull from it. Not just about the case itself, but maybe how true crime stories get told.
Definitely. What's interesting right off the bat is who these hosts are. Maya Sinclair, she was a criminal law student.
Yeah, and apparently she was obsessed with forensic files. You can sort of imagine her focusing on the evidence, the tangible stuff.
Right, the puzzle pieces. And then Liam Carter, the journalist, he was into the Zodiac case early on.
So he's maybe more about the psychology, the why behind it all, the sort of hidden motives.
It feels like a good combination, like they bring different angles to the table.
Totally.
Yeah.
And what's really different here is they aren't, doing their own investigation into Sarah Finch.
No, they're actually looking at how another podcast covered it. Deep Cuts Crime.
Exactly. So it's like meta true crime analysis. We're watching storytellers analyze other storytellers. Kind of gives you a unique perspective.
It does. And clearly, this Sarah Finch case really got under their skin. They call it haunting. Layered. So let's dive in with them. Where does the story begin?
Well, the setup is classic, almost eerily so. Sarah Finch, she's 27, living in Asheville, North Carolina. This is back in 2016.
Okay.
She vanishes from her apartment, the last anyone knows for sure. She finishes a shift at a diner, stops for gas.
And there's footage of the gas station stuff?
Yeah, security cameras confirmed it, but after that, just gone, nothing.
In the apartment you mentioned, no forced entry.
None at all. Which makes you think, okay, did she know who came over? Or did she just walk out?
But then her stuff was still there.
Right. Her purse, her keys, and this is the kicker, her phone, all left behind.
The phone, yeah, that's... Nobody leaves without their phone these days. That screams it wasn't planned, like not a casual walkout.
Exactly. It points to something sudden, maybe not voluntary.
So naturally, suspicion turns.
To the ex-boyfriend, Daniel Ray. Classic starting point in these situations. As Maya and Liam point out, apparently he had a bit of a temper.
And no solid alibi?
No solid alibi. So yeah, he's immediately on the radar.
And this seems important for the Echoes hosts. There was no actual evidence linking him, right?
Zero. Nothing concrete. And they make a big deal of that. How easy it is to build a story around suspicion alone.
Yeah.
It's a trap.
Yeah, for investigators, for us listening, easy trap to fall into.
So with no clear lead there, the whole thing just feels heavier, more mysterious. And Echoes really leans into this growing sense of anxiety around Sarah before she disappeared.
How so? Through interviews?
Yeah, they highlight stuff from Deep Cuts crime interviews with her coworkers, neighbors, family. People notice things.
Like what?
Like she seemed nervous, on edge. One coworker even mentioned Sarah asking about security systems, like a week before she went missing.
Wow. Okay, that's specific. Asking about security systems. That suggests she felt threatened by something, right? Not just general anxiety.
That's certainly how Maya and Liam seem to frame it. It shifts things. It's not just someone deciding to leave, it's someone potentially reacting to a danger.
And then things get even weirder.
Oh, yeah. About 2 weeks after she vanishes, her sister, Rachel, gets this phone call. Super cryptic.
A phone call? From who?
A man just gave his name as Hollis.
Hollis, okay. What'd he say?
He said Sarah was safe but scared.
Safe but scared. I mean,
Yeah.
What do you even do with that? It's hope and terror all mixed together.
Exactly. And Maya and Liam really chew on this Hollis guy. Is he a friend trying to help? Is he the person who took her, playing games?
We're just some random cruel prankster.
That's on the table too. But here's where it gets really interesting. Something Echoes picked up from the original podcast.
Yeah.
Apparently, Hollis mentioned details about Sarah's childhood. Things that weren't public knowledge.
Wait, really? Okay, that changes things. A random hoaxer wouldn't know that.
Right. It makes it harder to just dismiss him. It suggests maybe, just maybe, there was some truth to what he said, however weird it sounded. It adds this whole other layer of, who is this guy?
Okay, that's deeply unsettling. And then there's her journal.
Ah, yes. The journal, Echoes, definitely focuses on this. It gives us a glimpse, maybe, into her mindset.
Yeah.
But it's intense.
What kind of entries are we talking about?
Things like they're watching from the woods.
Yep.
And no one is who they seem.
No. Okay, so paranoia or...
Or genuine fear. That's the big question, isn't it? Are these writings from someone spiraling into anxiety, or is she actually describing real events, real feelings of being watched?
And where do the Echoes hosts land on that?
They seem to lean towards it being real, Or at least they present other evidence that backs up the idea that her fear wasn't just internal.
Like what? What else was going on?
Well, neighbors reported stuff, strange activity around her apartment building in the weeks before she disappeared.
Like people lurking.
Unfamiliar cars, yeah. People knocking on doors late at night. Not just a one-off feeling, but like a pattern people noticed.
Okay, see, that corroboration is huge. It's not just Sarah feeling watched, it's neighbors seeing things that are out of place.
Exactly. It adds external weight to her internal state. And Echoes does touch on Sarah's mental health history. She'd been in therapy, dealt with anxiety, depression.
Right.
And they're really careful about this. They stress there was nothing to suggest delusions or, psychosis, nothing that would make her imagine threats that weren't there.
That's such a critical point because it's so easy to just write off someone's fears if they have a history of anxiety or depression.
Totally. And Maya and Liam even float this really dark idea. What if someone was trying to make her seem unstable?
To discredit her.
Yeah.
So if she did report being scared or watched, people wouldn't believe her.
Precisely. It's a chilling thought.
And wasn't there something about security footage near her place?
Yeah, another really disturbing detail. Grainy footage, apparently, showing a hooded figure outside her window at some point.
A hooded figure. See, again, that's not internal. That's external. That's a potential threat right there on tape, however grainy.
Absolutely. As the Echoes hosts argue, you can't just wave that away as part of her anxiety. It points outwards.
So with all this building the nervousness, the call, the journal, the neighbors, the figure, where do Maya and Liam take it? What kind of theories do they explore?
Well, this is where they start getting into more speculative territory, I guess you'd say.
Okay.
They actually bring up the possibility of something bigger, like could it have been a trafficking ring? Or even some kind of small-town cover-up.
Wow, okay. That's a leap.
It is, and they admit it's speculation. They're clear about that. It's them trying to find a theory that fits all these weird, disparate pieces.
Because the simple explanations don't quite cover everything.
That seems to be their point. The sudden vanishing, the fear beforehand, Hollis, the lack of solid leads. They argue that maybe something more organized or sinister could connect those dots.
So after laying all this out, what are their final thoughts? Where do they land personally?
Well, Liam, the journalist, his gut feeling is that Sarah found out about something dangerous, or someone dangerous.
And she tried to get away.
Yeah, he thinks she tried to flee and was stopped. He definitely doesn't think she just walked away willingly or, alone.
And Maya?
Maya pretty much agrees. She adds that feeling that they've, quote, only scratched the surface. Like there's way more hidden beneath everything they've discussed.
So the feeling you get from their analysis is profound uncertainty, really.
Completely. It leaves you hanging, which I suppose reflects the reality of the case.
Yeah. So after going through this deep dive into echoes of the crime and their take on Sarah Finch, you're left with that same feeling, aren't you? Just unease.
Definitely. So many disturbing details, so few actual answers.
It makes you wonder, and maybe this is the thought to leave our listeners with. We go about our ordinary lives in ordinary places. But what dangers might actually be lurking just out of sight? And maybe more importantly, what happens when someone does sense that danger, voices that fear?
And they get dismissed or ignored because of their history or because it seems too unbelievable.
Exactly. It's a really sobering thought.
It really is. And it shows, like Maya and Liam found, these stories are almost never simple. There are always layers, things hidden.
Always more to question, more to think about. It's never just the surface level.